Testimony Tuesday. Welcome in. So, this live, the topic for today, if you're watching live or if you're going to watch the replay, I'm Anna. And this live is actually going to be about forgiveness. I recently uploaded a post onto my YouTube channel and it talks about my experience with dealing with the spirit of entitlement. And I talked about the story of Hagar and how Hagar became pregnant her by Sarah, which was her master, and her being pregnant, Sarah got upset, and so now she is realizing that she's not getting the help that she felt like she was going to get from Abraham. And Sarah became jealous of her. She started mistreating her and all the things. So she wound up kicking her out. And Abraham told her to leave, packed her up. So she left and wandered in the wilderness two times. Not one time, but two times. And so my story is very similar. And I felt like God used that story to minister to me as a single mom. And I was holding on to anger and different things, but I also was holding on to unforgiveness. Um, and just a few examples that I want to give in this live of testimonies that I want to share is um, how God walked me through that scenario of unforgiveness. And with that situation, my children was a little bit smaller then, but this is a situation that I have to constantly bring before the Lord because although I have forgiven, the Lord has shown me that I was holding on to bitterness and unforgiveness. And I remember doing this devotional about single moms, and I was doing this devotional, and the Lord was like, nudging at my heart saying that, you need to bring this to me. And I'm just like, but, I have every right to feel how I felt. And the Lord was like, bring it here. So I remember being at work. I had to go to the bathroom because that's just how much the Holy Spirit was dealing with me. Like, you need to hand it here. So I went to the bathroom and I was like, okay, Lord, here it is. And I had to release all the anger that I was holding on to, everything that I thought I was entitled to feel how I felt against the father of my children. The Lord was like, surrender it. So in that moment, I had to let it go. I had to surrender and just surrender my heart to the Lord, and the Lord in his tender care. Hello to the ones who are logging on. The Lord in his tender care, I had to trust him with my heart, first of all. And he showed me in that moment just how much he cared for me and just how much um he was concerned. So I surrendered to the Lord. I let go of the hurt. And in that instance, I also called that person and just asked for forgiveness because every conversation that we had, I was always saying something about what they weren't doing. And I repented to that person. I repented to the Lord and I just surrendered my heart. But in that instance, in that moment, I surrendered it to the Lord, but I also realized that this particular situation calls for a continual surrendering. So anytime that thing would come up in my heart, anytime I would be triggered by their actions, or anytime I felt like I was doing things alone, I had to constantly surrender that to the Lord. And He helped me with that forgiveness. And I just want to encourage anyone that may be watching now or maybe watching this replay that if you feel like what you're holding on to, whatever that person have done to you, whatever you may be holding on to, I had to realize that the enemy will use people's brokenness to to get to you. Like the saying that people always say, I don't think it's biblical, but when they say hurt people, I believe that statement really is true because the enemy will use another person's brokenness to affect you, to harm you, to abuse you, or whatever it may be. So I realized that that person is also still a son or a daughter of God. you know, whether they are a broken person, unhealed, whether they're just, narcissistic or whatever it may be, at the end of the day, they're still a son or a daughter of God. So he requires us to forgive. And because I had to realize, another thing I had to realize is that we sin every single day. None of us are perfect, and I don't get things right every day, but the Lord still have mercy on me every single day. His mercies are new for me every single morning. So why should I hold this against this person? Why should I not forgive this person? Why can't I let this go? When the Lord shows me incredible mercy every single day. His love is just so vast. It's like I'm so consumed by the Lord's love. It's like I have no space to hold on to that 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 bitterness. And this is an act. It's kind of a habitual that I constantly do with my heart, because I want my heart pure before the Lord. I don't want to give the enemy any access in regards to my heart. One of the scriptures says that I believe it says that the heart is wicked, who can know it, or deceitful, who can know it. You never know what's deep down in your heart until the Lord brings it up, or a situation comes about to where all of a sudden you having these emotions and outbursts of anger. You don't realize that you were harboring something in there. So that's just one of the examples. Just to piggyback on my last video that I posted, that's just one of the examples of forgiveness. But the next one, because this is Testimony Tuesday, the next one I want to share is when the Lord um highlighted that I had forgiven everybody. The abuse that I share on my channel, the spiritual abuse that I endured from spiritual authority in my youth, um, the father of my children, and different things that has affected my life, I had let go. I feel like when it comes down to people, I I could be very forgiving. I like to see the good in people, but when it came down to myself, I was extremely hard on. I didn't realize that I hadn't forgiven myself. I was going on, I had carried shame for a long time, and I felt like, okay, the Lord, thank you for subscribing. The Lord delivered me from shame, and I'm good now. But I realized the way that, I talk to myself, the way that I criticize myself, the way that I feel like I had the spirit of regret, different decisions that I made. I was holding on to that, and I didn't realize that I had not let go and truly forgiven myself. And once I came to that realization, it's like the Lord began to talk to me and deal with me, like, and tell me that if he forgave me, everything that I've done is in a sea of forgetfulness. Why am I still holding on to the mistakes that I made or the things that I might have done? If the Lord has forgiven me, washed me clean, and just, delivered me, all these things. So who am I to hold on to those past mistakes? Who am I to hold that charge to myself when God is not doing it? So I had to forgive myself. Like, I had to forgive that version of myself, that 16-year-old that didn't know any better. I had to forgive just that broken woman that I was making those decisions. Like, if I knew, like everyone say, if I knew then what I knew now, some decisions we wouldn't make the same mistakes or decisions or any of that. So I had to realize that I was holding myself accountable up to a standard where the Lord wasn't even holding that against me. So again, that was a process that took, me healing, me learning, me rediscovering God, being able to trust Him with my heart. Every other person that I had given my heart to, some way or some form, they had let me down. Not saying that I'm perfect, but they had let me down. So I didn't realize that I wasn't really trusting God with my heart. Why should I open myself up like that? But once I started rediscovering God and really learning who He is, the fact that God is love, literally love, like that's who He is. So if He is love and we can receive His love, we should have no room to hold on to unforgiveness. And again, I know that this is my process, and I know that many people may have been through different things that much more far greater or more painful that I've been through. But I just want to encourage someone that if the Lord can help me to forgive, to release, to let go. Some I also had experience where I had to forgive a person that was deceased. I had to write a letter and by faith make a decision to forgive. I said, Lord, by faith, I don't think I can do this right now, but by faith, I forgive. Lord, will you help me? So the Lord, when you can't do it and you feel like it's impossible, ask the Lord. He will give you the strength. He will hold your hand until you're able to really fully forgive. He will hold your hand and walk you through that forgiveness. So I just pray that I said something today that will encourage you. And I just encourage whoever may be watching this video that you would sit before the Lord. Just have a quiet moment. It could be in your car, it could be wherever, because the presence of the Lord is everywhere. He's omnipresent. So wherever you may be, take a minute and ask the Lord if it's anything or anyone that you still need to forgive. And I would encourage you that the first thing that pops up, write it down, because a lot of what I've noticed and what I tell people that I talk to is that the very first thing that you hear when you're taking out time with God, the first thing that you hear, the idea that you get, or whatever that comes up, more than likely that's God. And immediately after, it's the enemy, because he's going to come and try to pluck up that thought. He's going to try to remove that seed, so you won't do what the Lord is asking you to do. So the first thing that popped in your head, I would encourage you to write that down and then right after you write that down, ask the Lord, further detail about whatever that was that came up, or that person or that memory. 9 times out of 10, it's the way that the Holy Spirit speaks to us through our thoughts. So I just pray that I said something that would encourage you today. I know I'm talking kind of fast. I got to go pick up my kids, but God bless you. See you in my next video.